You're listening to CRV Ambreed's Better Herd podcast, brought to you in partnership with the New Zealand dairy exporter. Join us as we talk to CRV Ambreed experts, industry leaders and farmers about hot topics and issues affecting herd improvement in New Zealand's dairy industry today. Keep current with industry news and get practical tips for improving the health and efficiency of your herd.
Welcome to CRV's Better Herd podcast. I'm your host, Sheryl Haitana from the New Zealand dairy exporter. Today we're chatting about progeny testing, which compares the performance of sires through their offspring. CRV Ambreed runs an industry-leading progeny test program which develops the next generation of elite dairy sires. Today I'm talking to CRV's progeny test program manager, Janine Broekhuizen. We're also joined by CRV breeding program manager, Aaron Parker. Good morning to you both. It's nice to be recording our first podcast in person since the lockdown. So Janine's sitting in the office with me and Aaron is dialed in through Zoom. How are you both?
Very well, thank you. Great to be here, Sheryl, and to share something both Janine and I are very passionate about.
Yeah, exciting to discuss our progeny test program. Thank you.
Fantastic. So CRV has been around for more than 50 years. Aaron, when you're planning the breeding program, what are you trying to create?
Yeah, well, it can be quite complex. A breeding program often is looked at as quite a complex thing. It involves genetics, but it can be quite simple. I liken it to baking a cake. You need the right quality ingredients and you need clear direction to make it happen. And for us, that direction is critical. And that's our breeding philosophy. Our breeding philosophy overarches everything we do. For CRV, we're trying to breed healthy and efficient cows farmers love to milk. And that healthy cow is really important to us. So that is a cow that's healthy and resistant to a vet. It's healthy for our environment. But that cow also has to be efficient. So efficient over multiple lactations. It has to be efficient for the amount of feed it eats. It has to be efficient over the lactations it's currently in. And it's really important that farmers love the cows that they're milking. And yes, while that sounds very holistic, it's love to milk a cow is a cow that's easy to care, easy to manage, and is highly productive. So there's lots of reasons the farmer would love to milk a cow. Our breeding philosophy is measured by breeding indexes, and we use multiple breeding indexes in our breeding philosophy. And we use NZMI, we use BW, we use once a day, and they are tools to help us measure our breeding philosophy. Those breeding objectives, those indexes, are important for us when we're breeding our bulls because we don't breed one bull suits everything because farmers have different production systems and different management systems. So we're looking for bulls that are for the high performance systems right down to all grass, very efficient systems because New Zealand's width and breadth of New Zealand, we have multiple environments where animals are being milked. So we have to breed animals that suit all those different environments. So our overall breeding philosophy overarches all those areas, but then we are quite specialised to use almost sub-indexes to produce the bulls farmers need.
So Aaron, to create CRV's breeding philosophy, how does your breeding program work?
Yeah, the nuts and bolts of our breeding program. It's a lot of fun and it's really enjoyable putting a breeding program together because you bring all these different components, and this is when I refer to a cake. These are the ingredients you use. We have to find and target the best cows in New Zealand, and we use the national database to identify those cows. We use our team, our sire analyst team, Jenna and Georgie, who go out and talk with farmers and look at these cows and pick the very best of them that we would like to use as bull mothers. And there's 5 million odd females in New Zealand, and we're looking for the best 1,000 of them. So it's really cool that we're out there talking with farmers, finding those best cows. We then, of all the bulls over the globe, we find the very best of the bulls that are going to match up with those cows, and we do target matings for the very best of the bulls, the very best of the cows, to produce elite progeny. That's heifers and bulls. Heifers are important as well because they are the next generation of our breeding program, but we produce those elite bulls that we look at. So we're in our progeny test program, we're looking at approximately 135 bulls. We create nearly 1,500 elite bulls through our program to select the best 35. And so that's really exciting, looking at these young bulls that we create in our elite programs. And we do that using technology such as embryo work. We use the AB, normal AB. We use genomic selection. There's lots of technologies we use to create these young bulls. But it's also great we work with the best farmers around as well, because we have ideas. And I liken a lot what we do too. There's a bit of art, there's a bit of science, and we work alongside the breeders who are so knowledgeable, and they come along on the journey with us. So that's a brief outline of our breeding program, how we produce the bulls.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. And today we're obviously talking about the progeny test part of that program, which is part of that overall breeding program, and that's where you come in, Janine. It's your role to identify all those best cows out there that you want to put in your progeny testing program.
Yes. I don't identify the best cows, but definitely the best herds or farmer operators. So we take these wonderful bulls that Aaron's program has developed and found, and want to test them across what is normally across our national herd. So a range of farms and farmers that represent the Joe Bloggs farmer and system. So we're looking for farms across a range of farming systems, geographically spread across the whole country, and to be part of the select group of farmers really that take the semen in and test these bulls for us.
So can you give us a bit more of an idea of what's involved in being part of a progeny test as a farmer? What's some of the benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I say, this is a select group of farmers that we've chosen to work together with them. They take the semen of the young bulls that we've selected on genetic merit and are eligible to graduate into their herd. And then the resulting heifers from those are brought through to their first year of milking, their proof year. And we ask these farmers to test these heifers through doing herd tests, and we look at confirmation traits of them. We'll talk about that a bit more later. But for a farmer, a PT farmer needs to keep great farm records. They benefit from having the genetic gains of these new bulls that are selected, so superior size that are selected. They have them in their herd earlier than anyone that nominates them later on. And we find that our PT bull teams give at least a 12-point lift in BW each year, which is above the national average. Our PT farmers receive a free use of our Sire Match product, Sire Match Protect, to protect these their herd against inbreeding in the bulls that we're putting out there. And we pay a rebate per heifer that comes through and completes the herd testing and other inspection requirements in their first year of milking.
So can you tell us a bit more about how it works?
Sure. So the first year you start in our progeny test program, you get a select pack of these young bulls to be tested, mate them into the herd. Year 2, they're born as calves. In year 3, so it's a long process, these yearlings are mated. And then in year 4, they obviously calve down and start milking themselves. And that's our important proof year of that semen that went in 4 years earlier for the bulls. So it's a 4-year cycle. And that proof year is the year that we ask farmers are herd testing to get testing data and TOP inspecting for other traits in those heifers.
So farmers that are part of the program, Janine, do they have a choice of the semen they receive?
Absolutely. We have within our progeny test program breed packs. So obviously you can choose whether you're wanting to mate Friesian straws, jerseys. We have a Friesian crossbred mix and a Jersey crossbred pack. So they can choose across those 4 packs or just one of them, whatever you want. And then we also have a choice, as some farmers may like the beta casein gene to be the A2 variant only, and that's quite possible on request in our PT program. The farmers are informed of the bulls within the packs at the start of the season, so they know the bulls that they will get a selection of into their herd.
So I guess it's how long is a piece of string, but what sort of percentage of these farmers are using of the progeny testing semen in their normal breeding program?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a bit more defined than the length of a piece of string. We quite happily let farmers take 100% of progeny test semen into their herd, or depending on herd size, it could be down to 50% if you've got over 1,000 cows. Most sizes of herds across the country, we're allowed down to 70% of your mated semen can be progeny test, and the others nominated, bull beef, whatever else fits your breeding goals.
So that's obviously just trying to keep the concentration of those animals in.
Yes, we then have requirements that if you're taking less than 100%, that same percentage comes through as your replacement R2s. Yeah.
Great. So Janine, can you talk to us about TOP and what happens during a TOP day?
So TOP are the traits other than production. So production being the measurements we take from a herd test results, but there are a lot of other things that make up an ideal cow into your herd. And as Aaron said, those cows that farmers love to milk. Farmers in the Progeny Test program are asked to score 4 farmer scores of those cows they love to milk, and that's where the temperament comes in. And do they fit into the herd and come in easily into the milking shed? Do they adapt to milking easily? So farmers are asked to score those once off for the heifers as they first come into the herd. And then on a TOP inspection day, an inspector from one of our breed societies comes and scores each individual heifer across 18 different conformation traits. So those are traits on capacity, size of the animal, a lot of traits around the udder, teat placement, length of teats, how their udder is attached to the body, and that's starting to look into those longevity things that we look for. How long is a cow going to stay around in a herd and be of worth and value? Those traits are all inspected on the TOP inspection day. That day we do ask farmers to draft out just the heifers to be inspected and have somebody available in the yards to help move that, because the inspector just looks at one animal at a time. But they're pretty good and quick at it for the number of measurements they're taking. And farmers do get those results back on their individual heifers, which is quite a bonus of being in the program. You get that in-depth information about your individual cows.
And Aaron, how key is it getting these results to be able to breed these healthy and efficient animals?
Oh, this is absolutely critical. The value of this information, well, it takes so long. The Progeny Test program, as Janine's pointed out, is 4 years, so it takes a long time for us to get the information. So when that information starts rolling in July, August each year, when the herd test information starts, it's incredibly exciting for us in the breeding program, because we're starting to see these little baby bulls that we created with their mums 5 years ago, and we start seeing how good they actually are. So we're using that herd test information to see, so all the daughters' information, so let's say there's 100 daughters out there, all their milk records are going into our national database, and that information is used in the big black box there to create breeding values to tell us how good that bull will be to pass his genes on to the farmers we're working with. Of the 130 odd bulls that we produce, only about 10% of them will go on to be supersized and be used on our farmers' herds. The other 90% become very expensive hamburgers. So we are genuinely chasing the very best. So this information is critical for us to select which bulls go on and into the marketplace. And it's not just the highest one on index. We also look at other things, which ones are extreme for fertility or which ones are very low gestation. So there's a range of different things that our selection team, that includes our marketing team, our sales team, and the breeding team, we go through all this brand new information and say, okay, which are the bulls that will go on and be very successful for the different aspects of our marketing program we are looking for. So incredibly exciting times. I often compare it to what it must feel like to be an All Black selector when you've got all these outstanding players and you've got to pick those very best ones to go on and play the game that you want to go and win further down the track.
That's a good analogy and a great problem to have, I'm sure. So can you tell us a little bit on what the drivers are to be able to select those very top sires?
Yeah, the drivers are obviously, well, I've mentioned healthy and efficient cows that farmers love to milk. And breaking that down, we want those healthy cows. Now, healthy cows, so they're healthy in themselves. So that I liken it to be cows that are resistant to the vet, because if the vet doesn't come out, that's going to save some money. But those cows, you feed them, they don't get unwell. They're the cows that you don't notice in the herd. So we're trying to select the bulls that will give the low somatic cells, so the reduced mastitis cases. They get in calf easily and effectively first time round. They produce high quality milk fat and milk protein that is efficient as well. So that's when we move on to the efficiency side of things. So that efficiency is for the amount of feed that the animal gets, how efficient they are over their lifetime. Because there's no point having a cow lasting only 2 or 3 lactations. We want to really make those animals efficient over 4, 4.5, 5 lactations. So that's important for us to produce relative to their body weight. For every kg of feed, we are trying to work out how we can optimize that kg of feed to produce the valuable product that we need. So we are looking at all these different aspects of our bulls to say which ones suit the farmer market we're looking at. And of course, it's split into breeds. So we have Jerseys, we have Friesians, and we have crossbreds. So we sort of have to do it 3 times for each of the breeds, and they're all subtly different. One of the key areas we do look at to make sure we have bulls that represent full pedigree for the pedigree breeders. We also want to make sure we've got bulls that represent the production systems in New Zealand. So we've got high performance bulls for those systems that are feeding heavily, those intensively feeding systems. Also for the grassland systems where it's lower input. So we've got healthy cows for them. So there's quite a range of different types of animals we are looking at selecting. The information we use are the breeding values that are created from the Progeny Test program. They are the key drivers to help us select which bulls fit into which categories.
Thanks, Aaron. So there's a good point there, Janine. Do you have quite a mix of sort of systems that your farmers are running in terms of more high input to be able to test these different cows on different systems?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got systems right through from what you might call the traditional system 1 to 5, and herd sizes from 150 cows to 1,500 cows. And as I said, spread throughout the country. So we need to test these bulls on different environments, different feed inputs, different management practices, and we have that spread. We have at the moment just on 200 farmers each year taking our Progeny Testing semen into their herd. Yeah, so, and I do vet and look at each one of those as they come in, and that, sometimes there's gaps where we need to target what sort of farmer we need to bring in, to make sure we've got it covered.
Yeah, and I guess you're sort of finding some farmers yourself, but if there's farmers out there that are interested in becoming part of the program, what sort of criteria do they have to meet, and what do they need to do to contact CRV?
They need to be, first up, actually passionate about breeding and interested in the genetic grain in their herd and working with us towards our goals and their goals, and we work with them. We need farmers that are great at keeping farm records. It's crucial. We're proving bulls here. We need to know which dams, which semen went into which cows, and hence the calves matched up. And obviously timely manner on getting animal tag numbers in, calving records in, etc. So as well as that, and the passion to work with us together as a team, we have a lot of interaction with our Progeny Test farmers. If anyone is interested, would love to hear from them. They could get in touch with their local CRV field consultant or give me a call through our 0800 number, which is 0800 262 733.
Cool. And you're talking about accuracy there. It's obviously paramount that they keep their records up to date and accurate. But obviously DNA testing would be a hugely important part of the system now.
It is, and for validity of the program and going ahead to the national database and the whole a national gene pool database, that obviously the animals in it need to be DNA verified and tested. And so we work with our farmers in the Progeny Test program to ensure that this is done. And that feeds through back to Aaron's program and identifying the elite cows that are on those farms that then they could have target matings with or embryo transfer work, because many of those have come through from our Progeny Test program,
And another benefit of being part of the program, I guess, is getting that DNA testing.
We work with farmers to work out a way of getting that done on farm for sure, and that does add to the value of animals.
Yeah. So, Aaron, can you tell us a bit more and explain the difference of a proven bull, an insire bull, and a PT bull for those of us listening?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because sometimes it does create a little bit of confusion out there. So when we talk about a PT bull is a bull in this first, we've just bought him, he's produced semen for the first time, and he's been sold in that spring, mated in that spring for the first time. And the purpose of that progeny test is to get daughters on the ground so we can measure the important aspects of those daughters. for the Progeny Test program to then get a proof later on in 4 years' time where we've got daughters on the ground and that PT bull goes on to be daughter proven with daughters that are milking and farmers have scored their TOP traits. Whereas an insire bull is a bull that's been selected from the PT program, hasn't got any daughters milking yet, but his genomic test, the DNA test we've taken from him, tells us that he's actually a really high chance, or we think he's got some really nice characteristics that are going to go on and be very successful later on, hopefully as a proven bull. So we market them early as what we call an insire, where they don't have daughters yet, and we're marketing them based on their genomic material, which is a similar data that we select these young bulls on initially for Progeny Test. So, I mean, to cut a long story short, an insire bull is the very best of our Progeny Test bulls that we're making available to the market to use these elite young genetics. Because, of course, the best genetics are always your youngest because they have got the latest things we're trying to breed. So it gives the farmers an advantage to get a generation or two ahead by using these elite young sires.
Thanks for explaining that, Aaron. What would you say to farmers who are not sure if progeny testing is right for them?
I think Janine summarised it really well. There has to be a passion, not necessarily just for breeding, but for good farming practices, but an interest in doing better. Probably for me, if I was farming still, I would be progeny testing because I love getting those. You're getting the cutting edge, the best of the genetics early. And across that program, your genetic gain is going to be equal or subtly better than using the proven bulls because you're 4 years ahead of the farmers using proven bulls. So if you imagine the farmers are using the proven bulls today, so the bulls that have already graduated, this group is 4 years ahead of them because they are the best of those bulls are a generation ahead, which is really exciting to have the best young bulls or best young daughters from bulls available to use on a farm. Particularly in today, I've been doing this a little while now and things are moving so fast now. So in Progeny Test, we're including things like our low-end sires, our facial eczema. And so you're getting the best of the new stuff that's not even probably commercially available in mainstream yet and through the Progeny Test program. So there are some other advantages you're able to pick up through Progeny Test. So I think it's like computer programs in a lot of ways. You're using the beta version and there's a whole lot of advantages that you are an early entrant in getting the best of the new stuff.
So Janine, in terms of those advantages, do you see that coming out in farmers' records in terms of animal health costs, and are they lower, and is their production, more efficient? And
we definitely see more efficient production, and the gains in the BW and our NZMI index are greater in our Progeny Test herds than a national average. As far as health testing and things goes, that's something that we are developing to get more information from the small group of Progeny Test herds and be able to use that in a research sense, really, to drive ahead what are the next new traits that CRV could be bringing in through, and partnering with farmers and identifying those and the genetic component of them outside of that management practices.
So CRV's been progeny testing for more than 30 years. There must be some great stories out there. Have you both got one to share with us today?
I've been in this role a bit over a year, and I love getting out and talking to particularly our long-term progeny test farmers. We've got farmers that have been around in this program for over 25 years, and then there's those that start each year. There's always a bit of a turnover. It's natural. But for some of the longer-term ones, I remember someone just his eyes lighting up when he said to me, I love looking through the catalogue each year and identifying bulls that I had 4 years ago. And I know that I've had them in my herd. So yeah, it's neat, and more than, and he's tried different things within progeny testing. As we said before, you don't have to take 100%. He's gone through phases of adding crossbred and 80%. And last year we introduced a much diverser outcross option by bringing in overseas Dutch bulls. And he lapped that up and said, it's time to get some more diversity into my herd. Great that I've got the opportunity in progeny test.
What about you, Aaron? What's the story that stands out for you?
Yeah, there's so many of the elite bulls now that are household names when you first see them, the Magleys, the Manhattans, the Pierres of this world, when they first start coming out of the pack to show, and you see straight away that these are very special bulls and are going to be legacy bulls in the industry. And that's really exciting. But I suppose one of the biggest highlights and one of the key features would be the National Field Days each year, when farmers, and happens semi-regularly, a farmer will come up, a PT farmer will come up and go, "Oh, that bull, what's his name? Bob. He's not in the catalogue. He's the best bull ever. I mean, it's so great. I mean, he's amazing." And we go, "Oh, yeah, he didn't make it." And he goes, "But how?" But it highlights that progeny test, the elite bulls aren't the ones that always are features in some of these people's herd. They're getting a good quality female or a heifer or a cow that works in their herd. And that's a real buzz, as well as having the elite ones, that seeing the program as a whole is successful.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, a real nod to New Zealand genetics as well, I suppose, there, in terms of what great genetics we have out there, and they all can't make that top elite team.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for joining us today on the Better Herd podcast. And if you do want to find out any more information about Progeny Test, give CRV a call.
Thank you, Sheryl.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sheryl.
Thanks for listening to CRV Ambreed's Better Herd podcast. Read more about today's topic and our panel guests by visiting CRV Ambreed's website, www.crv4all, that's the number 4all.co.nz, or follow us on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. Check out our upcoming topics and join us again soon for your Better Herd fix.